The Forgotten Sea was a place that even myths hesitated to linger. Vast and immeasurable, it was said to stretch beyond the horizon and into eternity, a labyrinth of waters cloaked in fog and legend. No maps had charted its depths, no ships had returned to tell its story. To sailors, it was a graveyard. To dreamers, it was a promise. Captain Kellen Rowe was one such dreamer, though some would call him foolish. Standing at the bow of his ship, the tempest's roar, he stared ahead, unflinching as the howling wind whipped his coat and the salty spray stung his face. His gray eyes blazed with purpose, fixed on the horizon where the mythical island was said to lie, the place where secrets older than time slumbered. His father had whispered tales of it when Kellen was a boy, tales of treasures beyond gold and power that made kings tremble. It had haunted him ever since, an obsession he could never outrun. Behind him, his crew worked tirelessly to hold course against the rising waves. They shared his determination, though for varied reasons, some for adventure, others for profit, and a select few for motives known only to themselves. Among them was Ira, their enigmatic navigator, her braided hair glistening with beads strung from far-off lands. She clutched a worn leather map etched with strange symbols, a map she claimed could guide them through the treacherous waters. Watching her weave her spells against the currents was Darren, the burly first mate whose weathered face betrayed more battles than words ever could. Nearby, Finn, the curious young deckhand, balanced himself as he coiled ropes, his eyes wide with the excitement of youth. Leah, the ship's surgeon and voice of reason, stood ready to intervene should rash decisions lead to bloodshed, a necessity when Kellen was at the helm. The storm was upon them before any could react, a sudden, vicious upheaval that turned the sea black and sharp. It tore at the sails and swayed the ship with a malevolence that felt almost deliberate. The crew scrambled to stabilize the tempest's roar, hollering orders above the roar of the wind, their voices drowned with every crash of the waves. "Steady," Kellen shouted, gripping the ship's wheel with all his strength. "Hold her steady, or we're done for." Ira rushed through the chaos, her golden eyes fixed on the horizon. "It's here," she called to him, her voice strained. "The Forgotten Sea fights all who approach the island. Even the worthy must pass its trials." Her words echoed like prophecy, for in that moment the waves erupted into chaos. The ship lurched violently. From the depths, shadows unfurled like smoke, coiling into the night sky. A screeching sound, deep and primordial, chilled the air. Then came the tentacles, massive and slick, writhing with purpose. They surged from the waters to wrap around the ship, dragging it closer to the abyss. The deck was a frenzy of movement. "Battle stations," Kellen roared. "Arm the harpoons. We fight for our lives." The deck was a frenzy of movement. Finn darted to grab a cutlass, his frightened but determined face lit by the flickers of lightning overhead. Darren swung his axe with sheer brute force, landing blow after blow against the monstrous appendages, sending flesh and seawater flying. Cannons thundered, shaking the ship. Leah shouted for coordination amidst chaos, her calm voice cutting through the storm like a blade. But the creature retaliated with fury. Its tentacles slammed down with earth-shattering force, snapping parts of the mast and tossing men like rag dolls. One tentacle coiled tightly around Darren, dragging him toward the edge of the deck. Before Leah could shout, Kellen lunged, his sword slicing through the slick, black appendage in one swift motion. Darren hit the ground hard, coughing seawater. "I owe you one," Darren wheezed, gripping his axe. "We'll settle debts after we survive," Kellen replied sharply. Ira then stepped forward, her hands raised toward the storm as though speaking to it. "It's no ordinary beast," she cried. "This is a guardian of the Forgotten Sea, a creature made to test us. It'll sink us before we reach the island unless we force it back." "We're not giving it the chance," Kellen shouted back. His confidence, though bold, was fraying at the edges. The harpoons were their answer. The crew fired one after another, embedding them deep into the creature's hide. It screeched, a sound so piercing it nearly split their ears, but its grip loosened. Finally, after a brutal clash that seemed to span lifetimes, the beast recoiled, slinking back into the sea with venomous reluctance. The waves calmed as its shadow disappeared beneath the surface. Panting and battered, the crew slumped against the deck. The tempest's roar was damaged, but afloat. "We survived the first challenge," Finn muttered, his face pale. "But if that was just the Guardian, what awaits us on the island?" No one answered. All eyes turned to the horizon where the fog parted to reveal jagged cliffs and black beaches. The island. "Prepare for landing," Kellen ordered. "We've come this far. We're not turning back." As they drifted toward the shore, silence cloaked the crew. Their thoughts ran wild with possibilities of what lay ahead. Treasure, danger, revelations. But something deeper lingered beneath their surface courage. It was fear. The island loomed like a living thing, watching them as they watched it. The black sand crunched beneath their boots as they stepped ashore. Above them, trees twisted unnaturally, forming a canopy that blocked the sunlight. The air was rich with the scent of moss and decay, like the breath of something long buried. Ira guided the group with her map, its symbols almost glowing in the island's strange light. "The temple lies ahead," she said softly. "We must approach with care. The Ancient Ones built this place not only to protect their secrets, but to test those who seek them." The path led them to the towering structure, the Temple of the Forgotten. Its stone walls were carved with symbols that seemed to shift and ripple under their gaze. Kellen's eyes locked onto the main door, the fierce determination returning to his face. Inside, the air was cold, unnatural. The crew descended into the temple's depths, where glyphs glowed with a soft blue light and whispers seemed to ripple through the silence. At the chamber's center stood a pedestal, and atop it a single object, a book, ancient and pulsing with energy. As Kellen reached for it, a voice, deep, thunderous, echoed through the chamber. "Do not touch the relic of time." But it was too late. The captain's fingers brushed the book, and the room trembled. Reality itself seemed to warp, as though the boundaries of past and future had shattered. The forgotten sea would test them yet again, and whether the knowledge they had awakened would be their salvation or their doom was a truth only time could reveal.